Mad Max fights for his life and for the lives of young airplane crash survivors. Listen as we discuss laws that are 6 words long, Jeff Garlin's thoughts on Michael Bay, and what this movie has in common with Showgirls. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, as we find out if Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says Gladiator with a glut, and Alan says as a father blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Test of Time Beyond Thunderdome. I am Alan Noah, near Thunderdome, and you are also in the proximity of Thunderdome?
I'm a quarter mile past Thunderdome, but I'm making a U-turn at the next possible place, at a safe place to turn, and I will go back to Thunderdome.
Okay, all right, very good. I appreciate that. I want you to be safe.
And Al, 2 men have entered this podcast. I think by the rules of Thunderdome, only 1 man can leave.
No, I don't want to have to fight you to the death. I mean, I feel like, I don't know. Let's not.
Were you about to say you think you feel like you were going to win?
I think so. Yeah, I think I could beat you in a fight to the death. I think so.
All right. Well, I mean, I appreciate you having high self-confidence, Al.
But I also very much do not want to find out. But before we get into Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, there was something I read the other night that made me think of you and I and conversations that we've had. You watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, right?
I've seen it. I haven't seen every episode.
Okay. All right. Well, you are, I guess, then familiar with Jeff Garlin.
Oh, yeah, the agent, yeah.
Okay, yeah, see, I didn't watch Curb Your Enthusiasm. I know he was also in The Goldbergs. I'm not really familiar with him and his work. But I've been reading this book that Courtney got me years ago. It's called Sick in the Head by Judd Apatow, and it's just these interviews. Judd Apatow is, like, obsessed with comedy. He's interviewed a ton of famous comedians, and the book is just these conversations. I love it. It's fascinating. It's very easy to pick up and put down. But in this chapter that I just read last night, Judd Apatow interviews Jeff Garlin. Actually, they're kind of interviewing each other. And Jeff Garlin goes on a rant about a thing that we've talked about. He says, I have never seen a Michael Bay movie. Judd Apatow says, you don't enjoy action and comedy hybrids? And Jeff says, I love action and comedy hybrids, yes, but not Michael Bay's. I'll never see his. It's a matter of pride. Then, Judd Apatow kind of is like, well, if you're going to critique the guy and shit on the guy, you should see his movies, which is a fair point. But he just goes on about Michael Bay is just lowering standards. Immediately upon first movie, it's a punch in our face to make us stupid. He really just hates Michael Bay, despite having never seen a Michael Bay movie. And I gotta say, everything he says is right.
I agree with Judd Apatow here. I think he's basing his assessment of Michael Bay on other people's assessment of Michael Bay. I think that's kind of a big problem in society today. So many people are getting their opinions straight from the internet. Don't you ever get the idea that when you're talking to someone, they're not only saying exactly what you would see online, but they're almost, when they're making a little joke, they're kind of quoting an exact tweet that kind of goes viral.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw someone kind of philosophizing about the problems with capitalism. She basically says a tweet that I basically see on Reddit it makes it to the front page every couple months because it's just kind of a funny tweet. But she totally took it as if it was her own. And she says, I feel like if you get like $1 billion, all the rest of your money should go to taxes. You should just get a t-shirt that says, I won capitalism, and we'll like name a park bench after you. And that's an exact tweet. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
I don't recall that, but sure.
Okay, but it's clever. It's well made. That's why it went viral. But you're just quoting exactly what people are saying online, and you're parroting.
Yes, I have definitely felt like that before, and I 1,000% agree with you, James. That is a shitty thing that people do, and you should not form an opinion about something that you are completely ill-informed about. However,
Michael Bay is an exception.
yes, I mean, Jeff Garlin is 100% right about Michael Bay. In this very, very specific instance, Jeff Garlin was fired from the Goldbergs for allegedly engaging in verbal and physical misconduct. So he's not a perfect guy by any stretch of the imagination.
I still think it's different because, Al, I will try to get you to watch another Michael Bay film, perhaps.
Nope.
But I respect at the very least, you have not only seen Michael Bay movies, but you watched Pearl Harbor a second time when you knew it was one of the worst movie experiences of your life. You've
Yes.
seen two Bad Boy films. You saw The Rock. Have you seen any other Michael Bays? Armageddon.
Armageddon, sure, okay.
I at least respect you saying, dude, I've seen 6 of his films or however many it is. I think it's fair that I can say I don't want to watch a 7th of his. That's fine. If you watch like 6 like Coen brother films, I don't think that Barton Fink is going to be the one that pushes you over the edge. You know,
Right.
It might not be for you. So I agree with your philosophy, Al, even though I'm going to still try to change it. I disagree with Jeff Garlin's.
Okay, all right. Well, regardless, I will still endorse the book Sick in the Head. It came out years ago. I think there's a sequel. I'm just very slowly picking up this book that Courtney got me years ago, but I am very much enjoying it. Judd Apatow is a comedy nerd, and he really cares about the craft of comedy, and I have a newfound respect for him reading this book.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
When and where do you read?
I read on the couch, usually at night when things are settling down. Sometimes it's when the kids have to do some work, some homework that they don't want to do. Sometimes reading, sometimes, math homework or a project or something. And I will say, hey, I will sit on the couch with you and you can read and I can read, or I'll read while you do work, and we'll kind of just be together. So it kind of feels less like they're being tortured. That's usually my reading time.
Cool. Yeah, I love to read in almost any travel situation, beach,
Sure.
Airplane, airport, stuff like that. But yes, reading I wish that was something I did more.
Same. Yeah, literally, I have been picking at this one book for years, so I am not much of a reader.
Good for you then, because there's certain books that I've tried over and over to do again and again, and I just don't get there, and good for you for trying it again and again. I've done this with video games. I've done it with series on television shows. However, I think probably a nonfiction like, a comedy writer, writing about their life might be easier to pick up rather than a novel that you're trying to do again and again.
Oh yeah, this is a series of conversations. You can read one chapter and then the next chapter has nothing to do with anything else. So it's completely easy to pick up, put down for 3 months, and then pick back up again.
And speaking of picking up, putting down, and picking up again, the Mad Max series that we're talking about today, the last one we're going to talk about, in honor of the Furiosa movie that's out in theaters now. There were 3 films in 8 years. It's not rare to see a reboot, but it's rare to see a reboot be successful and then spawn other films. I can only think of like Halloween. Scream, I guess, came back after a while, after a hiatus. Yeah. But it is very hard to do this, what George Miller did, especially after something like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which was, a big departure, and I guess what a lot of people had last thought of when they thought of Mad Max for decades until Fury Road came out.
Right. But let's get into Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, because we've been talking about this series for 3 weeks, and this was, to your point, the final film in the franchise for 30 years. There were talks about a Mad Max 4. I think in the early 2000s, Mel Gibson was going to reprise the role, but then it took another decade to actually make the movie, and then he was recast. But why don't you tell our listeners about this movie?
Okay, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is the third installment in the Mad Max franchise. And in this film, Max finds his way to Bartertown, a post-apocalyptic city powered by methane gas produced by pig waste. The refinery is run by two men, Master, a little person who is the brains of the operation, and Blaster, who acts as Master's muscle. Now, Bartertown's leader, Auntie, she asks Max to kill Blaster. So Max and Blaster, they square off in the Thunderdome, where disputes are settled by a fight to the death. And after sparing Blaster's life, Andy banishes Max to the desert, where he finds a tribe of children survivors from a crashed airplane. They think that Max is the airline's pilot who long ago promised to return them to civilization. Reluctantly, Max leads the kids back to Bartertown to rescue Master. They destroy the refinery and most of Bartertown in the process, which leads to a huge chase through the desert. Then Max helps the kids and Master escape, and then Max goes off on his own again into the sunset. Well, actually, it's not really the sunset. It's just the desert.
I mean, the sun's going to set eventually, I guess. So sure, why not? And this movie was less successful financially than its predecessors, right?
This film opened on July 12th, 1985. It had a $10 million budget. It opened at number 2 with $7.2 million on its way to $36 million domestically. So it made some money. It wasn't a huge franchise sensation that was kind of building up on the cable success of Mad Max and Mad Max 2. Number 2, it couldn't quite make it to number 1. There was a big movie in 1985 in July. It had opened just the week before.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. And so while it probably made some money, I don't think the studio really felt the need to go on. And also Mel Gibson apparently had to be really talked into going back to this film. He was just taking off, and he was probably about to sign on to Lethal Weapon. So he had to be persuaded to do it.
By the evil Jews in Hollywood, according to Mel Gibson, to be clear.
Just on its own, I think the title itself is pretty awesome. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. What the hell is Thunderdome? And now he's beyond Thunderdome.
I like it because it's just Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, no colon, no Mad Max 3 subtitle Beyond Thunderdome, no Mad Max in Thunderdome. It's just its own thing. So I like that. I like the title. But when the movie starts, we see Gyro Captain, the guy from The Road Warrior, the guy who built the plane. He's got the terrible teeth. And in this movie, he's also flying a plane, and he steals Max's vehicle. It's like a camel-driven vehicle. And it's weird because he doesn't seem to recognize Max. At the very end of the movie, they finally come face to face, and Max says, "You," and the other guy's like, "You," but they're not like, "Oh my God, it's so crazy to see you. We had this unbelievable adventure however many years ago. Remember Humongous and Wes and all that stuff." They don't really have a reunion. And I was reading today that apparently it's a totally different character played by the same actor who also has a plane. That's really fucking stupid.
I didn't even tell they were the same character for me, so it worked for me.
Really?
It worked in terms of what they were going for, that they were supposed to be different people. I just didn't quite recognize, I didn't really pick up the guy's face in the first scene.
Oh, I did immediately.
You know what movie this did remind me of? A notorious film, if you will. A film where the opening scene is somebody steals from the main character, and the end scene, they find them. "Why, you stole from me in the opening scene." What does she do in the film? She has very wild sex in a pool.
Showgirls?
Showgirls. Yeah, it starts with a guy robs Elizabeth Berkley, and then I think in the very ending scene, she meets the guy who robbed her, right? Doesn't she get in the taxi cab or something?
No, she hitchhikes, and just the same person
right.
who picks her up when she's hitchhiking in the beginning and the end.
Exactly. So this really reminded me of Showgirls.
Okay, fair.
I think the first parts of this film start out really strong, actually. He finds his way to Bartertown. And Bartertown is kind of this post-apocalyptic city that, at its surface, it looks a little bit more realistic of a secure city than that tiny little compound from Mad Max 2. It's a progression from the last movie in terms of they're really upping the scale of the city. I like this part.
Yeah, I agree. When we get to Bartertown, I was into it. I'm like, okay, I get what he was going for. In Mad Max, they show you society crumbling. And then in The Road Warrior, they show you that society is gone. This is just a wasteland. And now in the third movie, they're showing society rebuild. Oh my God, that's fucking brilliant. Really, genuinely, I was into that. I think that is a really, really great concept for a trilogy. Then we find out that this city is powered by methane gas. I'm like, holy shit, this is 1985, and they're talking about eco-friendly options. The last movie was all about gasoline. Now they're moving past gasoline. I'm really into this world that they're building. And then when we meet Auntie and she wants to go after Master Blaster, I got it. I understood what was going on, but I really didn't understand why Max was so gung-ho to just join up with Auntie and do what she wants. I mean, she's holding his stuff hostage, I guess. And, you know, in the last movie, yeah, he'll make a deal for his stuff and his freedom and his independence. But he just seemed like a little too gung-ho to like, yeah, sure, I'll go kill this guy, whatever you want. Why not?
You know, maybe it could have used a line or two more of dialogue, but I think that's exactly the last thing you said. That's Max's character. Sure, whatever.
Also, when he goes into the refinery and he's trying to scope out the situation and learn about Master Blaster before he attempts to kill him, you know, he used to be a cop. Like, he should be good at, you know, getting this information in a subtle way. He yells out to Master Blaster, "Hey, let's talk!" It's a loud refinery and no one really hears him. And then he meets the other prisoner, Pig Killer. But it's like Mad Max, who famously barely talks, screams out to the guy, "Hey, let's talk." It's like, what the fuck is this? What is he doing here?
You know, I think the first crack in this film really is basically Auntie and Master Blaster, their relationship, and why they're so hell-bent on killing each other. I think it's pretty easy to fill that in with some kind of story, but they don't really give it to you. Auntie wants him dead, but Master, he seems to be the smart guy here. I don't think Auntie knows how to turn pig feces into power. So you need someone like Master. And Master, he's also kind of a douche. He's like, say it on the microphone. Who runs Bartertown? And then, you know, Auntie has to humiliate yourself. Master Blaster runs Bartertown. Say it louder. It's a stupid move to make when whoever's holding all the weapons might be someone you should probably at least not publicly humiliate. You know, let's talk about these two characters. The casting and the costume design of these characters are awesome. Oh, we haven't mentioned it yet. It's Tina Turner. So I kind of wish that this film was a big success so that Tina Turner would have been like a huge action star, because she's kind of awesome in this film, even though I don't really love Auntie. I think she's badass. I think her outfit is badass. Her hair, this kind of big white hair that she's got, it's very cool.
I love Tina Turner. She is an amazing singer. I guess. She passed away last year. But I didn't think she was a great actress. I agree with you on the costume design, the hair, the makeup, all of that. Yeah, she's great. As an actress, she's fine. I looked at her IMDb, by the way. She was in Last Action Hero, apparently. I did not remember that at all. Did you?
No, I don't remember that.
Well, that makes me feel a little better.
I just think she's just kind of badass. I feel like with a good director, a good script, she would have been good. You know, a buddy cop film or something like that. I think she could have been really fun.
I suppose so.
I like the concept of Master Blaster, this idea of the brain and the brawn. It's great.
Auntie says they are two But no, they are one. I like that as a concept. They walk together, they move together. Master shouts something out, and then Blaster does it. They are one. Except then Max challenges Just Blaster into the Thunderdome, and they immediately separate. I was like, wait a second, I thought they were one. I thought that was the whole thing. That would have been kind of interesting in Thunderdome. If Master Blaster goes in, then Master is telling Blaster what to do, and Blaster has to react, and there's a little bit of a lag, but Blaster doesn't know what to do because he's wearing this giant helmet with no fucking peripheral vision, so maybe he needs Master calling out what to do. And, you know, I get it. The reason that they don't do that is because they have this catchphrase about Thunderdome: 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. I gotta say, I don't think that line is that fucking clever. Apparently George Miller thinks it's clever because the line is in the movie 8,000 fucking times.
I love every time it's in this film. I think it's a great line. I think it's fantastic. I think it's cool.
But it's not like an original concept. It's 2 men fighting to the death. It's Gladiator. No matter how you might pronounce it, like, this is a very old thing. They've just come up with a new marketing slogan for 2 men fighting to the death.
Well, it's the chant, I think. I think it's everyone chanting. Because I have to say, the Thunderdome itself is really cool in the idea that all the spectators are literally hanging onto the walls all the way to the ceiling, and they could get stabbed. You know, the movie is Call, has Thunderdome in the title, and I think there's maybe 5 minutes in the film, and it's not even that central to the plot, these 5 minutes. What did you think of that scene? Because I thought it was great.
I thought it was really anticlimactic. It looks like a shitty jungle gym. It's really small and not like this big impressive thing, which was what I was imagining for the titular Thunderdome. Thunderdome, it sounds huge. Like, it should be echoey, you know, like thunder evokes like an auditory spectacle of some sort. Yeah. And it's a fucking jungle gym. And the fact that they're strapped into these harnesses, I thought was interesting. I'm like, okay, that's a unique spin on the 2 men fighting to the death in a gladiator kind of concept. But it just seemed like slow. Like it slowed them down, both of them, Max and Blaster, to the part where I was like, okay, now I'm just watching them do trapeze, Cirque du Soleil kind of shit, and they're not fighting. They're just kind of like bouncing around over each other.
I disagree. I just think it's a really cool way, first of all, in the 80s, to have absolute practical effects of obviously stuntmen, but doing some really cool stuff of jumping to the ceiling and getting a weapon. I just thought it's pretty cool. I do agree with you now that I think about it. It could have been a little bigger, but I feel like that's a budget too. I mean, today it would have been huge, but it would have been CGI. Like, you wouldn't have seen 90% of it. So
of course.
I still think that this scene is great until the very last part. And that's the fact that Max spares the life of Blaster.
I 100% did not understand why Max did not kill Blaster.
Right. I mean, it's because he's a hero and he shouldn't be killing him.
Max knocks off Blaster's helmet. He sees that Blaster has Down syndrome. Then he decides to spare his life. This is completely out of character. Need I remind you that Mad Max, the first movie, ends with him murdering a person with an intellectual disability. That's how the movie ends. Max doesn't care about killing the mentally challenged. So this action, or lack of action, this sparing of his life, is completely out of character for Mad Max. To be clear, I disagree with Max's policy on killing people who have intellectual disabilities. I mean, I don't condone murdering anyone in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not saying that I think it's wrong that he spares Blaster's life. I'm just saying that it doesn't make sense based on what we know of this character. And really, the reason he spares his life is for plot purposes, because then we can get to the next law of Bartertown, which is bust a deal, face the wheel, because apparently all of the laws in Bartertown have to be in 6 words. two men enter, one man leaves, bust a deal, face the wheel. Like, this is the simple kind of society that they're going for.
I'm fine with that because sometimes simple people are spun by and they're manipulated by really, really simple slogans.
Yeah. Build the wall, lock her up, stop the steal. Everything Trump says has to be a 3-word chant that people can yell in an arena and then they believe it.
Yeah, there are these simple chants. I do like that in a number of post-apocalyptic worlds, they often do play into the fact that people are kind of dumb. And I'm okay with that. Bust a deal, face the wheel, I think is cool. I love the fact that the wheel, did you notice that there are things like it's death and gulag and, anti-choice? There wasn't one. I don't know if you saw, it said spin again. I just love that.
I did not see that. That's really, really fucking funny.
Yeah, they did not do a close-up on it, but I did notice it, and I like that it's a little in-joke, because I feel like Auntie would get a kick out of that, even though the person spinning it is like, oh, fuck.
But, by the way, gulag, to me, is like a prison camp, but in this movie, it just means banishment. I kind of just chalk that up to, like, an Australian thing.
Yeah, all I know is like a work camp in the Soviet Union.
Yeah, like Siberia or something.
Yeah, that's the only thing I know of.
Yeah, same. But whatever, they send him out into the wasteland.
And then basically we have a second film. Like it or not, flaws or not, there was a coherent film going on. And then Max goes out in the desert and we just go into a whole other film, in my opinion. This turns into a Peter Pan Lost Boys film.
100%. It is totally different. It completely feels like they had a couple of ideas for a Mad Max movie and they just stitched two of them together. Apparently, this script was originally not a Mad Max script. It was kind of more of a Lord of the Flies kind of thing. And then George Miller took it and, put Mad Max in it and added the Thunderdome thing. It really feels like two disparate stories. The thing that I couldn't help thinking of when I was watching the scenes with the kids was a South Park episode called The Wacky Molestation Adventure.
Yes, I know what you mean.
In the episode, they're talking about that was in the before, the long, long ago. And that's kind of the way that the kids in the movie talk. They do the tell, which is them telling the story. And there's so many little turns of phrase where you can kind of get what they're saying, but you kind of have to think about it. He's got all the word stuffs. You mean he's talking? Like, what the fuck are you saying? It's confusing. It was hard to follow. I get what they were going for. These are kids who have been on their own for a very long time. Some of the finer points of the English language and grammar and syntax are lost on them. But I gotta feel like that would work so much better in a novel. If you were reading it and then you could read it again and kind of figure it out. In the movie where the line of dialogue just comes and goes, I was like, wait, what the fuck is she talking about?
I was just so confused by what was going on at this point in the film. But at the same time, I have to say that the story of the kids and that they came in an airplane and there was only one adult that survived with them, this guy Captain Walker, I guess he was the pilot of the airplane. He said he was going to go get help and he was going to return. So the kids formed their own society waiting for the legendary day that the Messiah will return. I like that. I think that's kind of neat. I think it's weird that Captain Walker looks exactly like Mad Max.
Does he?
Didn't he have painted white hair on the side, the little mural they make?
Yes, but I wasn't sure if that was what Captain Walker looked like or if they painted that after they found him.
I agree. It wasn't clear either.
None of it was clear.
But that being said, I still like this idea. That's a neat story. I don't think it fits into a Mad Max film, or maybe it does if Max meets these people right in the beginning. Maybe they have an engine or something they've been saving, and that's the secret to getting us on an airplane so we can get off Australia. I like that. I just don't really like that this is in this film.
Well, I mean, everything about these scenes and these kids is very, very weird. Like, they keep going on and on about Captain Walker, and I kept waiting for the real Captain Walker to show up. He never does. He's just like this mythical figure, and it makes logical sense within the story. Yeah, he went off and he died because that's the world that they live in. It's a wasteland, but, you know, it's kind of a Chekhov's gun thing. You mentioned this guy. He should pop up, I think, just narratively.
I felt like Captain Walker definitely does still exist. Maybe the twist is he survived, but he was like, fuck those kids. I just wanted to get out of there with all the water or something like that. And then maybe he learns his ways and he'll sacrifice himself to save the kids later or something like that. I thought there would be something cool, but I knew it wasn't in this film because I vaguely remembered seeing this film as a kid. But I agree with you. Like, where was the payoff, or where were the kids to be like, it doesn't matter, Captain Walker. Captain Walker's like Batman. It's more of a symbol than an actual specific man. Max could be Captain Walker.
There's a little Captain Walker in all of us.
Exactly. You just have to say something stupid like that.
Well, the whole thing is really fucking stupid. But, like, I get Max's point, which is you guys live in paradise. They're in this oasis in the middle of the wasteland that no one has noticed, but okay, fine. They've got everything they need. They're surviving. You know, they're like, oh, we need to go out and find Tomorrowland. And Max is like, no, that's really dumb. You should stay here. Sorry, I'm not this Captain Walker guy, but yeah, let's stay here. And the leader of the tribe is like, no, we're leaving. And Max says, no, you shouldn't. And then to prove his point, he shoots at her. He takes his shotgun and fires it at her feet, at like the thing that's like right behind her to get her attention. And then he does it again. Then he punches her in the face. And I hate this. This is fucking despicable to me. I will say, contrary to him not killing Blaster, this is in character. This is the guy who we've seen before. So it's not like he's had some kind of magical change of heart, but Jesus Christ, he's shooting at a fucking kid. He punches a fucking kid in the fucking face. Like, yeah, you're right. They should stay there, but maybe don't do that.
I like that Max is not going to be a sweetheart and be like, come on, children. No, he's going to be a little like he's a tough guy. It's the same trope as, for sort of comic relief, character's just going to take a frying pan and hit someone over the head.
Well, that happens. That happens in this movie.
Yeah, it does. Right. And I've never liked the frying pan trope in films or TV or anything. I'm saying it's on the same level of like, you hit someone with a frying pan and they just hit the ground and don't move. You have probably killed that person or caused a brain bleed. But in the movie, it's just wonk. So I think that's what it means. That's my point. I think in the universe of Mad Max, he's just kind of like, you know, giving her like a dummy slap. But in the movie, it's Mad Max punching you. And, you know, it's an 80s thing, so he's punching a kid. They wouldn't have done that today.
Right. And also, speaking of violence or bad things happening to kids, Savannah is the character's name, the girl who Max punches. She escapes. She leads some kids away from the oasis, and a kid gets swallowed up by quicksand. And that's a awful, horrible, tragic thing. Literally seconds later, there's happy-go-lucky music when they see Bartertown. Like, there is no mourning of this kid at all. It was a really fucking jarring thing, going from this kid's death to, oh, look, there's Bartertown. Yay, we made it.
Wait, didn't they pull the kid out of the sand?
No, the kid dies.
Oh, okay.
And also, Max, like, dives to save this kid. He's, like, very heroic, which, like allowing Blaster to live, I agree with that as a thing to do to try to save the kid. But why the fuck would Max do that? That's completely out of character. Like, Max is going in and out of character so quickly, it's giving me whiplash. Like, I don't understand who this guy is, despite the fact that I've seen him in 2 movies prior to this one.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you say that because I feel like this would have been a perfect opportunity for the growth, because there was apparently a scene that was filmed but cut in which Max dreams about his wife and his kid. And whereas in the second film, he doesn't give a shit about this man and woman who were attacked and brutally murdered. He's like, I'm just here for the gasoline. There could be a progression, and he can now suddenly be starting to heal from the tragedy of his family's murder, and he can start caring. These kids could be a proxy for his own child.
I kind of hate the trope of a dream that makes you realize something. To me, that's just lazy storytelling. But there is something missing here that very easily could tie back to his origin story. He could bond with one of the kids and say, you remind me of my son. It could be done in a Mad Max way where it's not super cheesy, where there's not a ton of dialogue. Also, there was a kid in the second movie, The Road Warrior, where, that also could have been a proxy for his kid, and it completely wasn't. But that's okay. Maybe there's something about this kid, these kids, something that fuels his growth in some way, but none of that is in the movie. Also, something that's not in the movie, when Max first encounters these kids, I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're going for. This is another society that is being rebuilt. But we're going to see the contrast between the kid society and Bartertown.
That would be interesting.
Right? Bartertown is depraved. There's government-sanctioned murder, and it's all about retribution and these 6-word laws. Then we're going to see that the society that the kids have built is actually better. They have it figured out. From the mouths of babes. I thought that was where the movie was going. Nope. None of that shit's in the movie at all. That's right fucking there, George Miller. Come on. That's right there. And they don't do any of it. Instead, they go back to Bartertown. They rescue Master. And what follows is another car chase scene. It's actually the first car chase in this movie. I say another because there's so many in the first two movies. I like the fact that this movie wasn't just car chases and motorcycle chases, and that they were doing different stuff. But then when we got to the scene, I was like, okay, here we go. A lot of it's on train tracks, which I guess is a new spin on the Mad Max car chase. That didn't work for me. I felt like that makes it less interesting if they're on tracks. There's less they can do. There's fewer places they can go. The one henchman, Iron Bar, who has the mask on his back so he looks taller. He's like Goose in the first movie, where he dies with air quotes 17 times. He keeps getting maimed in horrible situations, and he doesn't fucking die. He doesn't die at the end of the movie. At the end of the movie, he gives a middle finger from a wreckage. It's real Looney Tunes level shit.
Yeah, there is a little bit of that Looney Tunes stuff. Yeah, like a Roadrunner kind of thing.
No, a lot of it. Are you going to tell me I'm wrong and that this chase scene is epic and super cool?
I thought it was fine. I thought the car chase scene at the end was perfectly fine. But was it anything as good as really any of the minor car chase scenes in Road Warrior? No. I didn't think it was bad, but I just didn't think it was the climax of the film that had the highest budget.
All right, fair. Even though I'm complaining about Iron Bar never dying, the one part that was cool was when he was hanging off of the train and it was going by these poles or something, and he kind of has to hurdle himself over the poles so he doesn't get sliced in half, and he's flipping his body over. That was a cool visual. I enjoyed watching that. But the entire rest of it is stupid. Max comes face to face with Auntie, who is going to kill him. She said earlier that she's going to kill him, save Master, but kill all the rest is basically her order. And then she doesn't kill him for no reason. Why does she let him live?
I think she just begrudgingly respects him in the end. I feel like she leaves him to die, even though she doesn't realize that Max is not going to die in the desert. Max can live in the desert.
Sure, but it's stupid. Yeah, and then, it shows that the kids, Master, they're in Sydney. They have their own society, and Max isn't with them because Max is a loner. Again, there could be a reason for it. There could have been growth. Now he decides he wants to join the society. He wants to be with these kids. This can be his new family. or there could be a reason why he doesn't want to join them, but there's neither. It's just he goes his own way, just 'cause.
Yeah, I don't get it.
But James, let me ask you what you think about the movie as a whole. Do you think Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome stands the test of time?
I said 2 weeks ago that I liked Mad Max. I stand behind that. I really liked Road Warrior. I thought that was a cool movie, real neat. And Beyond Thunderdome, I kind of dug the first half and the foundations of the film. The second half of the film really doesn't go anywhere. Although I kind of like the idea of the second half of the film, it doesn't fit in a Mad Max film. I'm not saying kids don't work in Mad Max films. I thought that the kid that's known as the feral kid from Road Warrior, I thought he was fine. I thought he did his job, that he's kind of, wow, this is what happens to children when there's absolutely no society and no one else for this kid to play with and that kind of stuff. He's totally messed up. This film, I didn't really get it. You're right. The kids were too in the before times, everything was wonderful. It just doesn't come together. I like the fact that we got some glimpses of Sydney. I thought that was kind of neat. The score of this film is completely 80s. It's got saxophone. It's a little too comedic, a little too lighthearted.
A lot of didgeridoo.
Yeah, I understand why this film didn't work. I also understand why the audience was like, you know what, we're done with Mad Max for a while. This was a committee movie, or it was 3 scripts that were kind of hodgepodge together and just didn't work out for me. So I like the first 2 films, and I like parts of this film and ideas of it, but no, that Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome does not stand the test of time. What do you think, Al? I mean, you didn't like the first 2 films in this series. Let's hear. Does Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome stand the test of time?
No, of course it fucking doesn't. This movie is really poorly made. It's poorly written. The acting, Mel Gibson just looks bored. He really looks like he does not fucking want to be there. And so hearing that, George Miller kind of had to really lobby him hard to get him to show up, you see it. You see it in his face. Like I said, I went in with an open mind. I was into this idea of society being rebuilt. By the way, that's a pretty fucking great idea for a trilogy of movies. Society crumbling, society is gone, society is being rebuilt. I mean, I almost don't want to say that. Maybe I should edit that out and keep that for myself and write a trilogy or something. Not that anyone's giving me $100 million to make it, but that's a really good idea. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work with these movies. I did not like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I will say one nice thing. The song over the end credits, "We Don't Need Another Hero," that is a Tina Turner banger. I mean, that's a great song. The other song that she did, "One of the Living," that sucks. That is not a good song. Also, I kind of hate the fact that the official full title of the song is "We Don't Need Another Hero," parentheses Thunderdome. Come on, you don't need the parentheses Thunderdome in there. But overall, this movie sucks. It does not stand the test of time. Oh, just one other point, because you mentioned the score. This movie had a different composer, a guy named Maurice Jarre. The first 2 movies were scored by Brian May, but not that one. Not the guy from Queen, just another composer, an Australian guy who has the same name.
And the same Queen.
I guess, sure. When I saw Brian May in the credits for the first movie, I was like, holy shit, the guy from Queen did the music? No, different guy. But I am happy to be done with this trilogy, and I am really, really excited for next week's episode. This is literally an episode years in the making. We'll tell the story next week. For Father's Day, your dad and my dad are going to join us to talk about Animal House. I can't wait for that episode.
Oh, it's going to be great. It's a movie they love. They've been waiting their whole lives to talk about this film.
I mean, my dad has been talking about Animal House a lot, just not on a podcast. So this is going to be great. But guys, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts on Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. We want to hear your thoughts on Master Blaster, on Anti, whose full name is Anti-Entity, according to IMDb. They never say that at all. Weird. But we love hearing from you. We are at Testing Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. And we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.